Alright, let's get started. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first convening of the board. The bosses have given us a number of topics to choose from, so what are we thinking?
What about this one? What is the definition of nerd in today's world?
I'm thinking we should do this one.
Sex and sexuality in games?
Okay, come on. It's going to come up eventually. The bosses are going to demand that we talk about it, so why not now?
Well, but this is kind of what we're going to be talking about throughout our whole time in here. Why not go with that first? Okay. Fine.
Alright, so who actually wants to start us off?
Well, what do you mean by sex and sexuality in games? What, like, where it belongs in the games, or...?
Yeah, I think that's a good enough place to start. What do you all think?
So if we're talking about actually allowing it in the game, I think usually what it is it's up to the individual group, as is many things, sexuality, prejudice, all that is up to the individual group. If the entire group's not okay with it, then it's better off. I personally don't like it because I don't see it as necessary.
Okay, don't see it as necessary. In what sense?
Well, I guess it's just my personality. I was never very fond of the overly, sexual stuff. I grew up in a very conservative family. So when you play an RPG like D&D or Pathfinder, you're out there for these big epic fantasy adventures, Lord of the Rings style. There wasn't much sex in that.
So what if we left it to the GM itself? GM goes, yes, if you as a player decide you want to be sexual in my game, then fine. If you choose not to be, then that's your choice.
Going back to a previous topic that he was talking about, kind of in with that, it seems more, yes, you're going for this epic adventure, but it's very much, in my opinion, when I RP, it's about realism. How lifelike can it be? And in that sense, if sex is allowed, it's just that much more lifelike.
Yeah. Well, I think, and especially if you're introducing new players to a group, you really need to talk to the players. That's where the whole relationship of GM and player is very important, is that you need to get stuff like this out of the way. So, if the majority of the players are okay with it, but, if there's like one who isn't, you can have it, but just at a sort of very
There needs to be a cutoff point.
Exactly.
Exactly, so I think...
If it's just, one of the players just disappears with someone else for a room for a little bit, that could be like a little private section for like a few minutes while the rest of us do their own thing.
So, I think ultimately what we're trying to define here is a baseline. Like, if I'm sitting down to run a game, okay, how much am I trying to appeal to the porn hogs out there? And how much am I trying to appeal to, like, Will here, who's been raised in a conservative background and would thinks that stabbing orcs in the face is somehow a much more holy activity than boning chicks in a tavern.
Well, see, it can be there, but it doesn't have to be necessary. Like, there is a happy medium with what you were saying just a minute ago. It's not just complete pervs or complete conservatives.
Exactly. So,
If you want to bone the main antagonist, then fine, but, not all of the characters have to be a part of it.
Yes, usually sex is seen as a private event between two people. Sometimes one, sometimes three, what have you. And I can't believe I just said that, but,
Vice versa.
they don't need an audience, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so how about this? Here's another but that carries in. The feminist point of view of women should not be scantily clad in RPGs. Now, mind you, this even carries over into video games.
Oh boy, what
Hell,
do
I
we
was
Lord
playing.
Croft. Lord Croft, where do we,
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
famous, yes.
So,
Hell, I was even gonna bring up a video game example of kind of what we're talking about, the whole baseline player agency thing. I think the absolute worst way to handle sex in games was how Grand Theft Auto San Andreas handled it, where you could pick up girlfriends, and you could have sex with them. However, you just got a shaky cam outside of the house. You could not skip the cutscene, and you just had to listen to the sexual moans. So you got none of the visual, none of the actual experience of having fun. You couldn't skip it if you didn't like it. I think that's the worst way to handle it. Just make it
forcing it on people.
Not just forcing it on people, but if you're gonna force it on people, at least give them something to enjoy if they're into that sort of thing. And San Andreas did none of that.
Were you were about to say something, Andrea?
Well, I don't really have much on that regard.
So, I mean, then how about this? What was your opinion on the whole, like, say Champions of North? You have an elf chick that has her butt hanging out the entire game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think maybe in video games they should more cover and leave more to the imagination? Or is it just okay for, you know, anything? Because I know that there's a lot of feminists that go, oh, she can't have her butt hanging out.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. They kind of limited that. They have to have the whole butt hanging out or what have you, but they didn't give us the choice to be more conservative.
The clothes
Do
don't.
they have to though? Do they really have to? 'Cause
Well,
I don't think they do.
I think what she means is the game doesn't give you the option of covering up her butt.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
This
interesting.
conversation, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, Andrea, because I remember did you have more you were going to go on, or?
I was going to say, especially since, you know, in Champions of North, the whole idea was that you create your own character. It's like, well, why can't I have one that's a little more conservative? Especially if some of us are that way.
I agree, and on it's not exactly regarding sexuality, but having your butt hanging out—that's not exactly practical if we're talking armor. I mean,
Okay, come on. We're talking about RPGs here. I'm pretty sure a character can get just as much protection from a chainmail bikini as Conan can get from a chainmail loincloth.
Oh, good grief!
See, a little thing that I was thinking of this whole time was, I'm not sure if we're talking about just games in general here, but if we are, then where do we kind of stand on the whole Samus aspect? Anybody familiar
Samus
with
as a woman?
Metroid?
Okay, the
Because
Samus effect, you've been playing a girl all along, blah ha ha, that kind of thing.
more along the lines of, she has armor. It's so conservative, if you will, that you didn't even know if it was a man or a woman. But then Zero Suit, it seems practical to me. However, they've over-sexualized it, in my opinion. Zero Suit, if you're in a suit that's that bulky, it would need to be made thin, and it would need to be made to have whatever functionality alien technology is in there to be able to still make you able to move around in that larger, bulkier suit as fast as they do.
Well, actually, I think I've caught on to what you're talking about. Orion, you once talked about a long time ago about about the suits that female superheroes wear, and how that is not realistic. And you actually once described what a more realistic suit would be for a woman.
Yeah, which is essentially a slightly more armored version of the Batman suit, and honestly, Batman could have used a bit more body armor in some suits anyway.
And on the note, one thing I wanna mention is a common notion, I think would be a better word, even not just in games but everywhere, is for women less clothing is sexier. I remember a long time ago.
Okay, you're acting like though if that's any different for men.
Oh no, I'm not
because
saying
okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. How many times have Kirk, Vin Diesel, okay, all these people had their shirts ripped off? Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
I've seen his arms. He's a god.
Yeah, and you're a fan of pro wrestling. You know, you have experience for a fact that women get just as crazy over a scantily clad guy as guys do over a scantily clad girl.
I have to concede that to you, yes.
So to call it a feminist issue, I think it's kind of insulting because it swings both ways. It's just that girls are paid more attention to.
Well, I don't think I was saying it was just a feminist thing. I was just pointing out that the general consensus is that that less is more, if you will. And I'm just bringing up women because that's just what the pictures I'm about to talk about were. It was it was a comparison. An artist took a picture of certain female superheroes like Starfire, Supergirl, Batgirl, and then did his own rendition of these girls in less, like more covered, because all these guys, these girls, very revealing. I mean, Starfire right off the bat. He did a rendition of where it actually covered and was more practical, and I actually found these characters that he did to be much more attractive.
That's because a lot of guys, whether you're a guy or girl, you look at someone who's covered and you go, okay, so first time with him, he was wearing just a t-shirt and jeans. That's, he could walk around topless and I can go, cool, okay, he has muscles, no big deal. T-shirt, I don't know if there's body hair, I don't know, you know, what the muscles look like, or, you know, if he's got tattoos. It's all up to the imagination, which drives the sexual bit of, so why shouldn't video games or RPGs cover the same thing?
Yeah, Schrodringer, this is a cat scenario, essentially. If you see what's there, you know what's there, but if you don't see what's there, anything can be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, how are we doing on time?
10 minutes, 13 seconds.
Wow.
See, here's the problem. I feel like this is a good topic, and I actually have a lot to add to this.
Yeah.
Shall we keep going?
Oh, hell yes.
Yes,
Oh,
let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Okay.
So, may I note something here? This whole time we've been talking about leaving it to the imagination and whatnot. To me, that means everybody, no matter what, is a sex object in some form. That when you play an RPG, as soon as you've spawned in, you've got your character, you look around, that you're looking at everything as if they have to be sexually attractive. But when I play a game, I see characters as characters. I see them as people, as whatever. If I'm RPing, then not everybody needs to be, you know, sexually attractive. Not everybody has to be somebody that I can think of in a certain way. Because, to be quite honest, I mean, I don't play games to see like, oh yeah, I want to screw everybody in this town, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, where is like, where is that line?
If
basically?
the GM puts a character in and goes, okay, she is very beautiful, or he is very handsome, or muscly, or whatever gets your fancy, I believe that should be portrayed as a possible sexual character. If it's hey, there's an orc that just walked in the bar who's carrying a giant knife and is going to slaughter the entire bar, I think it is very inappropriate for you then to go, I'm going to screw him.
What if
So
you
it's-
have like a slaughter the whole bar fetish?
Then that's
I think
that's
what Geneva's getting at is,
Oh yeah.
if the character is there specifically to be sexy, then he is sexy. If a character is there to slaughter a whole bar, then he's there to slaughter the bar. It's about the intention of what the
It's a
character's there for.
it's a double-edged sword though. Like bringing up the orc scenario. Say you got a player that says, okay, I'm gonna buy him a drink and bring him up to bed. It's just like, okay, that is a possible resolution to that scenario. It might be even safer and more effective than killing the orc.
Assuming he doesn't have any STDs.
You know.
That is
True.
an entire new subject.
True.
later.
Orcish hygiene is highly suspect. Orcish hygiene is highly suspect. Granted. However,
However, and at the same
Yeah, it
point,
is a-
the woman may have a knife up her skirt.
Maybe planning to assassinate him.
exactly. So I think limiting player options is never ever really a good thing. However, presentation and players acting on that presentation purely to be a dick, like the classic example is an old guy approaches the party on the road. Awesome, I slice his head off. Does his blood run it through the cobblestones?
Yeah.
You know, those kind of players, you're gonna, no matter what baseline you set, no matter what you do, no matter what you describe, they're gonna find ways to be dicks because they're dicks.
But I mean, and then
The
you've
Mass
got-
Minds campaign.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want there to be sexuality, then there's going to be sexuality. If you don't, then you can avoid it in any way. It's completely between the player and the GM.
That
Is
really
that the
is.
consensus?
That seems to be the
Okay.
concession. That
Yeah,
in the end,
from an
it's
RPG,
choice.
like from a tabletop RPG, that is true. But how do you handle that in, let's say, an MMO?
Okay, and then
So-
MMO.
He's got a very good point because you may not want to see sexuality, but you know, what's an MMO you play where something like this could come up?
I don't know, honestly, because
Would something like that come up?
I know World of Warcraft had a
Wow,
Dark
yeah.
Elves sex scandal a few years back. I think it was
dear.
back in 2003 or something like
I
that.
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't usually follow that. You know, I'm
Yeah,
strictly.
Yeah, well, wow, okay,
tabletop.
so obviously with the chat, there are going to be some creepers and just really
Sure.
crazy guys out there who just
Or in
talk
the
about
case of
sex.
this particular scandal, apparently what happened was they simply removed all clothing and armor and then just entered in commands to have their characters act lewdly, to say the least.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
then that still brings it to the player's choice.
Well,
Even
yes,
in an
but-
MMO.
So ultimately, I think approaching it as a game designer, it doesn't matter if you're a GM creating a world, creating a campaign, or a software developer over at
Whatever company.
whatever company,
Blizzard, I think was-
Yeah.
Snowblind Studios, whatever. It really comes down to what you are comfortable with, because ultimately what the designer is comfortable with will determine what is allowed. Like Snowblind Studios, they're okay with scantily clad characters, they're okay with ridiculous amounts of jiggle. I have yet to see them actually enable a sex command in their games, because the designers are not comfortable with producing that kind of game. I, as a GM, I am comfortable to sit there with my computer looking up exotic forms of porn I did not know exist, just so I can understand what a player has described to me.
I was about to go, that's a little too much, but okay.
So, because I have that level of comfort as a designer. So if you're a highly sexual player who has a history of going into detail about exactly what you do to the barmaid in the bedroom with your tongue and a banana, or knife, then, and you're running a game, running around in a game presented by a GM whose level of sexual contact is, this character is pretty, touch, you die, then chances are you touch, you die. It doesn't ultimately matter.
If I may interject, I think what he was trying to say is that there is less control on part of the players when it comes to MMOs than there are with tabletops.
Exactly.
Yes,
You can't
because
say,
at a
I don't really
tabletop-
like this. Can we change it? Then
Yeah, at a tabletop, it's a GM and, you know, usually four to five, or in our case, 6
Yeah,
players.
tabletop RPGs are gonna
There
have...
can be a discussion right then and there.
Mhm.
A game, if there's going to be a change, that's going to take months, sometimes years.
which
the
they
way
most likely won't do.
If ever.
if they do it, yes.
Exactly.
I think what it is you look at an MMO and like, wow, it's a community, like in real life.
Yeah.
You go out there, one of these days, you're going to pass by a sex shop. I mean, we all know about Taboo Video just up the road.
We do.
Mhm.
There's a taboo video just up there. We're clearing that up.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
So-
have not been. I have not been in there, but the point is,
It's
there's
there.
one. There's one there. The fact of the matter is, you're going to see sex out there.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not going to be everywhere. Your choice is to simply remove yourself from that situation as much as you can
So you're talking
and not
about
participate.
like realism and whatnot.
Yes.
With this. So where's the line? A good example of this. Have any of you known of? It's a very obscure game called The Third Birthday.
Nope.
A
No.
long time ago. The health system in that game was that you played as a female character, and essentially, as you would lose health, you would also lose clothing. It would rip and tear and whatnot, which made sense in a actual
I think
sense
I've
of.
seen a few parodies of this game as like Flash games.
But
Yes.
I think I
But,
see where
but
this
where's
is
the
going.
extent where that goes too far? Like, granted, you're fighting against giant tentacles and
Everything.
That's
we all know
but if
enough
we're
about
talking,
that, but-
if we're talking just about the fact that as you get damaged, you lose more clothing.
Yes, exactly.
So basically, there could actually be a point where your character is completely
Okay.
naked.
Yes, but I don't think that logically you would get to that point ever. Like,
It
losing
depends.
armor, that makes sense. You would actually
Okay.
lose armor. However, like, there comes a point
Would
where...
you be able to? Should you be able to replace it?
Yeah, first of all, yes. And second of all, if you lose all of your chest armor and then you get stabbed in the chest, why is your helmet gonna pop off? You should just be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your pants aren't gonna fall off because you got stabbed in the head or through the chest or through the arm.
Yeah.
So where is
So-
it sensible, you know?
I don't know if sensibility really is the issue here so much as individual comfort levels and who you're going to market to. Like, if
So-
you're marketing to, K grade kids, like little kids, chances are you're not going to try and make something like that for them.
So you're
Chances are-
saying it's about sort of, it's also concerning the company, they have to keep a very good
Exactly,
image with the
it's-
public.
But that's also why they put the ratings on games.
Exactly.
See, I think honestly, on your subject is that read the back. Read what level is this game?
Yeah,
Is
it's-
it X? Do not pick it up. If you are not into that, don't pick it up. If it has something like the choice of is sexual content or there is, read it. If you don't like that, return it.
But shouldn't it still be optional? Because there are a lot of great games. Like, okay, great example, GTA 5.
Yeah, there-
Lots of people love it. Lots of people also don't love the sexual content of it.
So don't
It's
get a
optional.
girlfriend.
Exactly, it's optional. That's what makes it great.
Yeah, you don't have to pursue that side quest. It's kind of similar to a situation I had when I was on break at work. I work at the Rose Quarter, and this was a hockey game at the Coliseum. I'm on break, standing in line, and it's taken a while because it's real slow because it's 3 concessions, guys. 1 cash box, 1 card reader between the 3 of them. Real slow. The guy in front of me is complaining, and he says about 3 or 4 times, I paid to watch a hockey game, not stand around forever. After about the 4th time, in my mind, I couldn't say anything because I'm working, I'm being professional.
Sure.
In my mind, I'm going, then go watch the game. You don't have to stand here.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So if you're complaining about the sex involved in getting a girlfriend in GTA 5, then don't get a girlfriend.
Yeah,
you don't have
exactly.
to.
Yeah.
There
You
are
don't
games
need
where
to
it's not
pursue that side quest.
optional.
Of course,
Yeah.
not every game is like that. Remember,
Exactly.
GTA
Yeah,
is very much a
especially when-
sandbox game, which is, I understand, it's very rare in video games.
Yeah, there are not
Nowadays
too
it's
many.
becoming
It's
a little
becoming
more
a lot more
mainstream.
common, but there's still also an issue is things like budget, programming space, those kind of things. Like,
Definitely.
okay, like let's take an example. Okay, you got GTA, a PlayStation 2 game, giant sandbox, really beautifully detailed world, number of interactions you can get into. That's also, I don't even know how much gigabytes of space is available on a PlayStation 2 disc. And I'm pretty sure they use damn near all of it with the ridiculous loading times. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you got like a 8-bit flash game and you only have programming for like 2 hours of gameplay, then suddenly that option to get a girlfriend is going to get really, really, really not optional anymore.
So at that point, should
Not
When
play
you-
the game.
not play the game.
Yeah, exactly. I just
Or,
feel like
you know,
it's a
or
very
here's the
limited
thing.
subject,
you know, do research on your games. If
Uh-huh.
if you go, hey, I'm not sure about this game. I don't know what's in it. I don't know how to approach what's in it because I don't know. Do the research. There are blogs. There are reviews. There are so many things.
Yeah,
There's
we-
Facebook.
You
Facebook
should
has
research a game
people doing
every
all the
time just to be sure.
Yeah.
Not just because of the content, but is it actually going to be a game? I remember, you ever hear of Big Biz Tycoon?
No.
Okay. I saw the game at the store. I was maybe 13 years old. Wanted to get the game because it looked awesome and fun. I got it. I could not figure... There was some glitch in that game that would not let me actually do business with other businesses in the, PC businesses in the game. And I'd already opened it, I couldn't return it. I was screwed out of $20. Mom suggested that I go and review it, go and look at the reviews, and there were people everywhere saying, I wish I could take it back.
So ultimately, on your subject,
Sure.
research it. If you look at the
Yeah.
ratings,
Yeah.
look at everything.
Yeah, with this age, it has been nicknamed the information age for that reason. There is so much information. There is information even enough to get to a point where you can find any number of facts, opinions, articles out there to convince you to buy or sell a game.
Fair enough.
But what if that seems like too much work?
Before we go on to that, Merlin, where are we at time?
22.
22.
Oh!
All right. As much as I really would like to go on with this
Yeah.
conversation, but in the interest of time,
Can
what do you say?
can we all just note one thing before we end this whole
Yes,
discussion?
yes.
So,
yes.
I would
yeah,
just like
okay,
to-
so final conclusions, opinions.
Yeah, go down the
Just-
table here.
Yep,
Just
all right, let's start with you.
We'll have fun.
Wait,
Oh,
all
sorry.
right. Well, it's just a matter of. It really is just a matter of personal opinion. I mean, if we have the freedom of speech and choice, then why don't we just use it to take our preferences not only for ourselves in what we buy or what we play, but also try to take it with others into consideration.
Okay, I am definitely in agreement. And if you don't like it, then go watch the game. You don't have to stay there and deal with it if you don't like it, if everybody else is going to do it.
So I would conclude with the designer, GM, whoever is actually running and or making the game sets the baseline. It is up to the player, the user, to be informed on the topic, and on top of that to take advantage of the options.
Also, that honestly, on the subject of, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to do the work, then I don't think you have a right to complain. If you spent the money on it and you decided not to do the research or do it, then you spent that
It's on you.
as a grab bag. It's on you.
Ah, beware the buyer beware.
Yes.
And it's
Got your turn already.
All right, well, see, I believe it's really coming down to what the game is about. If it's about being realistic and sandbox-like, then sure, put it in there. It's all option. If it's not, if it's an adventure game, it's not needed. And let's all just remember that no matter how much memory you have, there might always be sex. I mean, there was sex games for the Atari.
Yes.
Fair enough. Well,
Custards for a bit.
well,
Those pixels.
well, I guess that wraps up for a good conversation. We'd like to thank Angel May for letting us use the back room here at Guardian Games, which you can find at MLK and Taylor in Portland, Oregon. Have a good night.